evening and welcome to Concord, North Carolina and the Charlotte Motor Speedway for the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series All-Star Showdown. The first of two portions of the event here tonight on live sim racing television, all organized by none other than former series champion Ray Alfalla. Qualifying has concluded for the showdown and we're live to bring you all 40 laps of this competition. And before we get ready to go green, joined in the booth here tonight by Jacob Seelman and Chris Overland. Jacob, let's go through the qualifying order as these cars grid and prepare to roll out for 40 laps to try to race their way into the All-Star race later tonight. On the pole is the number 35 machine of Brad Davies, and to his outside is the 34 of Matt Busa.
Row 2 starting third, the number 26, Joel Putty. Starting fourth, the 15, Dylan Duvall.
Cody Bias rolls on the inside of row number 3, and Danny Hansen will start to his outside.
Row 4 starting 7th, Benjamin Burmeister in the 25, and starting 8th is the 51, Tyler Laughlin.
Justin Bolton, the driver out of Pennsylvania, starts 9th, and Mooresville, North Carolina's Mitchell Hunt starts 10th.
Starting 11th, the 6 of Trey Edson, and starting 12th, the late model driver this season at Hickory Motor Speedway, Josh Berry in the 91.
Alex Warren takes his 82 from position 13, and Pedro Mojica, a name we haven't seen for a while, starts 14th.
Starting 15th, potent already this season in the NPAS, the 80 of Brandon Cattell, and starting 16th is Brandon Hawk.
Josh Gerald in the 11 machine starts 17th, and Brian Day with a sponsor from right here in Concord starts 18th.
Starting 19th, the 12 of Lee Heron, and 20th rolls the 3 of Rob Ackley.
Steve Gilbert rolls to 37 on the inside of row number 11, and Jordan Hightower has the Dogecoin car 22nd.
23rd, the 50 of Alex Scribner. 24th tonight, the 07 Derek Crone.
Mike Kelly starts 25th. Brian Blackford, his 33, rolls 26th as the field begins to roll away from the grid.
27th, that 77 Andrew Fash. The 3rd, 28th tonight, the 24 Chad Coleman.
Jesse Atchison, another name we haven't heard for a while, starting deep in the field, 29th. Chad Lawton going to start the evening from 30th.
Lawton got a long way to come. Starting 31st, the 9 of Nick Morris, and 32nd tonight, the 14 Jim Moore.
Final 3 drivers to take a qualifying time. Daniel Pope II, newly married in the offseason. He'll start 33rd. Brandon Hoff, 34th. And Sasha Wessler, 35th. On the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series All-Star Showdown. So very quickly before we get these things started, 40 laps to settle it. No cautions, no brakes, no nothing. It seems like a pretty long race, and it is, but it's also a pretty short dash, only 60 miles. And if you're deep in the field in this one, I think, Jacob, you've got to go and got to go quickly.
Oh, you've got to go in a hurry. And for somebody like Chad Lawton, who's been so good in the Peak Antifreeze Series this season, he has got a heck of a long way to come and a short time to get there. He's pretty much going to have to roll from the drop of the green flag and take no prisoners.
Pace car takes the hard left-hand turn off the 24-degree banks. Brad Davies and Matt Busa going to lead him down to the green flag. They're stacking them up already deep in the field. They're 4 and 5 wide. Look at Brian Blackford coming through the field. The 33 machine got a heck of a jump, but They've stacked up cars everywhere off turn 4, Jacob.
They were about 5 wide coming through the quad oval to the start-finish line. I couldn't even get a read on which car started that mess, but there were about 8 cars stacked up at the start-finish line. Meanwhile, battle already at the front of the field, Tony. 3 wide towards the front.
3 wide, these guys going at it. Quick note, who was in it? The number 2 machine had a piece of that accident as well. Tough break for the Mike Kelly fans. The 37 in it, Stephen Gilbert, Brandon Cattell. The 22 of Jordan Hightower, Brandon Hawk in it, Chad Coleman, and the 12 as well of Lee Heron, all catching a piece of that accident on the front straightaway as Matt Busa credited with the lead the last time by. They're still side by side into turn number 3. Busa trying to hold off the Canadian Dylan Duvall as Duvall having a great run on the outside of the racetrack, making something happen with Danny Hansen tucked right up there in the middle of the battle.
This is the kind of racing we've wanted to see since this new build rolled out. 2 wide, 3 wide racing all the way through the field, and that outside lane is working so far for the Canadian. Dylan Duvall up high. He has hung tough on that outside lane. Hasn't gotten the lead yet, but he's got it by a car length going into turn 3.
Dylan Duvall going to make the top side work for him here in the early going. He'll tag the top spot now as they work off a turn number 4. Single file now for the top 3. The battle is behind him. They're 3 wide briefly, and here we go. Another one up on the outside wall. That is the number, looks my left off the Mitchell Hunt car. Looks like Joel Putty, I think, in the outside lane. Tough break for him in that number 26 car, but somehow just kind of banked it off the safer barrier and kept digging. And this is not, let's make a point here, Jacob, to make sure everybody knows this is not your typical NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series style of racing. As we saw from the get-go, 40 laps, no cautions. You've got to go, and there are no second chances. And that's part of the reason we saw the stack up on the start. Guys deep in the field knew that was the best chance to pass race cars, especially when they're stacked up like that. Now, it's a little bit harder. Unfortunately, half the field was taken out in the accident, but sometimes you have to do what you have to do.
That's absolutely right. I'm looking at this. We got 17 cars right now on the lead lap and about 14 that are in this lead shuffle right here. You know, I got to give a call to Dylan Duvall using that high lane to make it work here in the early going. He got the lead, and he's been able to not necessarily check out, but he's at least been able to pull this field by about 3 car lengths, Tony. And, you know, looking like we could have some good double groove racing.
I think we can. The other note to also keep in mind, though, is Dylan Duvall, this is a fixed setup. So I have a feeling some of the competitors may be thinking that Dylan could be using his stuff up, as there's a change for the 4th spot now. Mitchell Hunt works by Brad Davies to move Hunt up to 4th. Davies now in danger of losing the 5th spot to the 51 of Tyler Laughlin as they motor down the back straightaway into turn number 3, and Davies will, in fact, be forced to relinquish that spot. But yes, back to the fixed setup. So tire management going to come into play here over the course of this 40-lap event.
And you know, it's amazing that we're talking about tire management in as short a race as we've got here, just 40 laps. You wouldn't think it's barely a tire run, but these guys really are going to have to manage their stuff, because if you use it up too soon, you're not going to have enough left to be able to hold on to one of those magical top 5 spots. Right now, Tyler Laughlin in 5th is the last transfer to tonight's All-Star race that's going to be just a couple hours from now.
And as you said, 5 is the magic number, and we've got Chris Overland up here in the booth with us, kind of taking things in. And Chris, you won the fan vote earlier this week on the iRacing forums and from all the iRacing fans across the world, essentially. What are the notes that you take out of a race like this? Obviously, the format's very, very different, but I'm sure there's got to be a few things you're looking for right now.
Well, certainly just looking at other drivers. Actually, right now, Duvall looks strong, Matt, Danny, all people who are obviously good in this simulator. But mostly just watching to see how the weather is going to make the cars handle. This is obviously the same setup, but this being daytime and the race later on tonight being at night, there's not really much you can take. It's still entertaining to watch all these drivers race their butts off to get in here.
Well, I'm sure it's fun for you to watch, of course, because you're not out there in the messes.
Oh, definitely.
The battle for the top spot starting to heat up just a little bit. Dylan Duvall feeling some pressure now from Matt Busa and Danny Hansen. Looks like Mitchell Hunt also lighting a fire underneath himself to try to join the party. But as we keep an eye on that, you talked about tire management, or we did, and the setup. As here goes Hansen now for second underneath the Matt Busa. Is it, with this new build and this new tire model, is it easy to save tires here? Is it difficult? Is that something maybe that you could take out of this race?
Well, I've done some testing for the actual points race here in the NPAS, and we found that around 30 laps, these tires really fall off almost no matter what you do. So that's gonna add a different level of immersion here and a different variation for drivers to come through the field if they don't save their tires. But you don't really have any indication that you're tearing the tires up unless you really overdrive the corner. So it's going to take a very skilled driver to be able to save tires with this current tire we have right now. And I'm sure in about 15 laps or so, you'll start to see time start to fall off, drivers start to get unhappy.
Well, usually unhappy drivers makes for very good racing. Reminds me of an article I read on PopularSpeed.com earlier this week. Kelly Crandall wrote it, something to the effect of, don't tell the drivers racing is supposed to be difficult. And Jacob, I think you'll agree with the fact that when drivers start whining and moaning and complaining, that's usually when we see the best racing, because it's uncomfortable for them, and uncomfortable race cars means they're on the edge of control, and it usually produces the best results.
That's absolutely right, Tony, and I think we're watching a little bit of that edge of control right now in this shuffle. 5 cars behind race leader Dylan Duvall. I'm watching Danny Hansen right here. That car's getting really squirrely up off the corners, both turn 2 and turn 4. Not looking like it's very happy right now, and we saw how good Danny and the rest of his J-Show teammates were last race out in the NPAS when Michael Conti dominated at Pocono en route to victory, but all 3 of those cars were running 1, 2, 3 at one point, and I've got to imagine it's a little bit uncomfortable for Danny right now. It's fixed setup, Tony, but they're not able to make it as happy as they were last week at the Tricky Triangle.
Well, the fact is that Poconos, here goes Hansen now looking for the top spot on Dylan Duvall, and Duvall's going to give him a lane, barely, but Hansen thought better of it. We're 15 laps into a 40-lap race, and he used discretion there, no doubt, as Duvall really didn't give him a whole lot of room. Meanwhile, further back behind them, it's like Tyler Laughlin could be under fire as Hunt underneath of him. That's not the spot he's worried about. It's that white car in the rearview mirror, Brad Davies. We've got a couple of battles now. Here goes Hansen again for the top spot in turn number 1. Hansen and Duvall side by side through 1 and 2. And it looks like Duvall is really making the top side work, Jacob.
He is right now. That momentum, he keeps the car wound up on the outside off turn 2, but Danny Hansen again battle for the lead into turn 3. Hansen looks to the inside, and that number 32, he's going to have the groove up off the corner, and I'm not sure if he's going to get the line right here. No, Duvall will lead the lap, but Hansen still on that inside. He's digging for every scrap of space he can get right now. The battle for 4th raging on 2 between Tyler Laughlin and Mitchell Hunt.
Whoa, hello, not only between Laughlin, Hunt and company, but Hansen and Duvall both with almost a slide for life in the middle of turns 1 and 2. Both those cars got a little tail happy and had to dance up the banking. Both drivers able to hold on to those machines as they're still neck and neck, wheel to wheel across the stripe. 18 laps now complete, working lap 19, and this is some of the best racing we have seen in a very long time, Jacob, from these Gen 6 race cars. iRacing did a fantastic job of replicating these machines, but holy cow, what a simulated Goodyear tire model they put underneath them. This is great. Side by side for the lead, now side by side for second, and really you don't burn anything, well, at least it doesn't appear that you're burning anything up at this juncture of the event.
Right now, that's true. Give them about 15 more laps, and I'm sure we'll be hearing a completely different story as you watched Matt Busa just a moment ago try to dig on the inside for second. Dylan Duvall, your race leader, by about 2 car lengths. Danny Hansen runs second. Third, now going for second again, is Matt Busa. Tyler Laughlin watching this as interested spectator in 4th, the last guy to transfer right now. Mitchell Hunt, but he's under attack from Brad Davies in 6th. Then, Tony, you've got about 2.5 seconds behind this. Benjamin Burmeister 7th, Justin Bolton 8th. Pedro Mojica, the Mohican Missile, in 9th, and Cody Bias completing the top 10.
Josh Gerald about 6 seconds off the lead right now. He's holding that 11 machine in the 11th spot as we've crossed the halfway mark. In fact, 19 laps to go this time. So we are into the second half of this race. Joel Putty currently being shown 12th, Brian Black, Crone 14th, Andrew Fyash the 3rd, and Stephen Gilbert in 16th. Those are all the cars on the lead lap. Sasha Wessler being shown 17th, 1 lap down. Everybody else multiple laps down, in the case of Brandon Hawk being shown 7 in arrears. And then essentially everybody else that was involved in that opening lap mishap at the start, including Brian Day, who's out limping around, and Alex Scribner being shown 18 laps down in 20th.
Yeah, I'm starting to notice you guys are talking about tire management. The 2 leaders, Danny Hansen and Dylan Duvall, have really gotten out of shape the last couple of laps, and that's allowed Matt Busa and Tyler Laughlin to gain some ground on them. You see him come off turn 2, and they look like they're starting to struggle with their cars, so it's about to get interesting.
Could be fun, no doubt, over that. I've kind of started to notice the same thing. It looks like the tires are starting to go away, and sadly for those guys through the rest of the running order, Jacob, from 21st on down, they have to be a spectator tonight.
Yeah, they do. Their night's over, and that's not how any of the drivers who started this 40-lap scramble want to see their night end, and even harder for them to see it end on the very opening moment here. Guys like Josh Berry, Trey Edson, Alex Warren, among them in this pack, Tony, that saw their night end before they barely crossed the start-finish line. Out of the race, Brandon Cattell, Lee Heron, Rob Ackley, Jordan Hightower, Mike Kelly, Chad Coleman, Jesse Atchison, Nick Morse, and Jim Moore. All those guys caught up in the opening lap. I say opening lap, really opening few yards skirmish. They're out as we've got another battle for the lead. Danny Hansen to the inside of the 15 of Dylan Duvall. They're side by side through turns 3 and 4, and Hansen may have the edge this time.
Oh, they touched the
Danny Hansen, hold on to it. Look at Bruce up through the grass. Teeloff is right there as well. Contact nearly for the top spot as they worked off turn number 4. These cars are now a handful. And Chris, you predicted it pretty much. The handling starting to go away. Cars are starting to dance a little bit. And now we've gone from a single file train to a 2x2x2 fracas. It's a game of musical chairs right now, Jacob. 5 get in. The 6th man is going to be off and looking in.
Oh,
yeah. That's exactly right, Tony. And I was sitting here looking at this, sitting here thinking, what are we at, Daytona? This is like pack racing on a 1.5-mile racetrack. Dylan Duvall on the outside goes back to the lead. Danny Hansen now in trouble. He's got company on the outside. I believe that's Tyler Laughlin in the 51 trying to go from 4th to 2nd off turn 4.
Yeah, you guys, Dylan Duvall is definitely not going to give up this win. He knows top 5 advance, but he's had a hard, long battle through the NPAS with what happened to him, and he wants to go out here and show everybody he's still got it. But you'll notice that these times have fallen off about half a second since they started the race, so these cars are definitely out of shape.
Now, what's it, Chris? Because obviously, some laps, as you've told us, once these tires do go away, I mean, what do you have to do behind the wheel to stay fast? And for that matter, when you're in a pack like this, where briefly we were 3 rows of 2, what do you have to do to try to A, advance, and B, hold on to your race car? Because we all know as we watch Hansen up the racetrack now, moving T-Law. Oh, here we go! Just about, I thought Laughlin and Hansen were going to get into it. But what are these guys fighting right now? Obviously, it's not the ideal handling conditions.
Well, right now you're just trying to keep it pointed straight, as you saw Laughlin trying to do and still trying to do. Whoa. You're mostly a passenger at this point. The tires have taken all the grip out, and the car's going where it wants to, and you just got to make sure that the car doesn't want to go into the wall or into another car. As you see Duvall pulling away here, he's got all the room to work with. Everybody else is fighting to stay off that other car, and they're giving up part of the racetrack, so they're giving up speed. It's just really difficult. This new tire is almost... Whoa! This new tire is almost impossible to hold on to.
He's got his hands full.
Yeah. Well,
Hansen doing a fantastic job in holding on to that race car, but I would tend to think, Jacob, looking at it from where we're sitting at the moment, Hansen is going to need to do something, whether that's let those tires cool or pray that somebody in front of him makes a mistake. He's gone from battling for the lead just a couple of laps ago to now back in 6th. Normally not a bad deal. He gives you a chance to have a pit stop, have a break, and still get back in the thick of it. But this time by, there's 9 laps to go, and now Hansen gone from outside the All-Star race to inside as he gets by Tyler Laughlin at the stripe.
This is the beauty of the All-Star race. There's no points. There's nothing but pride on the line as we got a battle for the lead down the back straightaway. Matt Busa to the inside of Dylan Duvall. He wants to have a shot at getting a little bit of pride before tonight's All-Star race. Busa inside. Duvall gets loose off turn 4. Give the advantage to the 34. Matt Busa to the lead with 8 laps to go.
If there's anybody who can do it, it's Matt right here. Matt's one of the best drivers I've seen when it comes to driving a really loose race car. I mean, you can tell by the line that he's running compared to the line Duvall's running. Duvall's swinging the back end out, and Matt just looks like he's got something figured out here. If there's anybody who's going to get around Duvall in these last few laps, it's going to be Matt.
Battle for the transfer spot now, where you got the 32 of Danny Hansen coming back on the 51 of Tyler Laughlin. Battle for 3rd now, Mitchell Hunt on the move around Brad Davies. He takes the spot away.
So pulled it off.
So lots and lots of positions changing, and really the only one that ultimately matters is that battle between Tyler Laughlin and Danny Hansen. And now those two have separated themselves 5 car lengths or so as the group works into turn number 3. Meanwhile, all this battling has allowed Benjamin Burmeister and Justin Bolton to close in on the top 6. Not really close enough to do anything with them. They're within about a second or so of the back bumper of Danny Hansen, and that I don't think is going to be close enough. but Busa up front leads the race. Now Duvall riding second. Hunt,
we got to spin.
It's close enough.
Brad Davies, hello.
I was just getting ready to say, Tony, it's close enough if somebody makes a mistake like that. And Brad Davies around in turn 2. He'll lose a couple of positions, and all of a sudden he's on the outside looking in with 5 laps to go.
I think he's going to be doing a little more than looking on the outside looking in. I think the tires are toast on the Brad Davies machine. I think he even realizes it now, as that time by the line he was scored in the 8th spot. Mitchell Hunt pick up a position on Dylan Duvall. Again, just a matter of semantics at this point, because both of those drivers, as they currently run, are in, and really what we didn't expect to see, things have settled out. However, that Benjamin Burmeister car, the 25, 2 laps ago, was probably too far away to do anything, Jacob. Look at him. He's about 5 car lengths off of Danny Hansen, who once again is finding himself locked in a battle for that 5th and final transfer spot.
Yeah, he's been 2 to 3 tenths quicker than Danny. Here he comes to the inside. I think Danny's just going to... I don't think Danny has any choice at this point. The car is not going to go as fast as he needs it to. He's just tore those tires up.
And that's a shame. Danny was really good at the start of this race as we come to 3 laps to go right here. And watch Matt Busa pull away almost to a 1-second advantage. Burmeister to 5th. Danny Hansen on the outside looking in. And for that 32, this has got to be heartbreaking to watch, knowing there's nothing he can do right now except watch the All-Star race slip through his fingers, Tony.
And he's not going to be... Oh, hello, Hansen. He had more than the All-Star race. He about had a race car slip through his fingers there in turn number 4, but held on to it, did Danny Hansen. It looks like now electrical issues may be plaguing that machine, so Hansen going to call it an afternoon as it goes from bad to worse for Danny Hansen. Coming off of turn number 4, this time is going to be Matt Busa, and Busa has opened it up. It's almost to Harrisburg with him on the backside of the racetrack. Back to second place, Mitchell Hunt. That's the equivalent of the opening. He has gapped himself to the rest of the field. White flag in the air for Matt Busa. Final trip around the Charlotte Motor Speedway, and it looks like Busa is going to find himself a spot in the All-Star race.
Yeah, down the back straightaway he goes, and it's no contest right here. Mitchell Hunt, Dylan Duvall, they're chilling. They know they've got spaces in, and give a call to Benjamin Burmeister. He didn't even have a prayer, and then he's in the All-Star race, but it's going to be Matt Busa. He'll pick up the win in the showdown. Mitchell Hunt 2nd, Dylan Duvall 3rd, Tyler Laughlin 4th, and Benjamin Burmeister, the guy who will make the final transfer spot after not really having a prayer, Tony. With 10 laps to go, he pulls it off.
And that has a lot to do with that tire management that we were talking about. I don't understand why everybody fell off so differently, because usually we don't see that in the iRacing service, but there was a lot of people tearing their tires up racing real hard at the beginning of the race. Hansen, Davies, and they couldn't hold on to it at the end, and Burmeister looked like he was too far out to even have to try that hard, and it paid off for him, because everybody else fell off to 29 2s, and he was still there running 28 8s. So
what you're saying, you think, Chris, is that maybe there could be a little something to saving your tires in the longer run tonight in the All-Star race, but of course cautions are on in that segment, so do you really think about that, or is it pretty much, 3 sheets to the wind and you just go and do what you got to do?
Well, this was a 40-lap no caution race, and as I said, the tires fall off around lap 25 or so, and that's the longest segment we're going to have tonight is 25 laps. So I think everybody's just going to be driving as hard as they can each lap. I know I will be. I appreciate you guys having me in the booth. I think I got to go get ready, though.
Yeah, we certainly appreciate you joining us up here. It's always fun to have a couple of guests with different perspective on what's going on. So while we get some things taken care of down trackside, and as far as the scoring and whatnot goes, we're going to take a quick break here on Live Sim Racing TV. You're watching the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series All-Star Showdown, followed in just over an hour by the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series All-Star Race. Don't go away. We'll talk to some of the drivers who transferred in just a moment. And welcome back to Charlotte Motor Speedway Live Sim Racing TV's coverage of the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series All-Star Evening. First, the All-Star Showdown, which just concluded. Let's take you through the finishing order of that one. Matt Busa came home the victor. Mitchell Hunt, Dylan Duvall, Tyler Laughlin, Benjamin Burmeister, a late race pass to work his way into the 5th spot. You see the rest of the running order on your screen. Gerald, Mojica, Fayash, Putty, and Gilbert made up the top 10.
11th goes to Brian Blackford. 12th, Justin Bolton. 13th, Danny Hansen. Heartbreaker there. He had a transfer spot in the closing laps, and it slipped away. Brad Davies, 14th after a late race spin. Sasha Wessler, 15th. The rest of these guys out of the race. Derek Crone, 16th. Cody Bias, 17th. Brandon Hawk, 18th. Brian Day, 19th. 20th, Alex Scribner.
Josh Berry involved in that opening wreck in the Speedco car, 21st. Trey Eidson, Alex Warren, Lee Heron, Rob Ackley in 25th. Jordan Hightower didn't get the bang for his buck in the Dogecoin car. Chad Coleman, Jesse Atchison, Nick Morse, and Jim Moore finished out the top 30.
Last two there, Mike Kelly, Brandon Cattell also out in that opening skirmish. Interesting to see guys like Chad Lawton, Brandon Hoff, Daniel Pope not take the green flag in this one tonight. Tough breaks for all of them, and especially Chad Lawton, Tony. I expected to see him up there challenging tonight, and just he never got the opportunity.
Yeah, you're right. But you know what? Maybe it was smarter on his part instead of starting in the back and having to go through that disaster we saw off turn 4 coming to the green. He saved a little bit of self-respect and maybe a little bit of stress for that matter. Either way, what's done is done. We can't go back and change it. We can only worry about working on race cars and working on drivers to get them fast for an hour from now. We caught up with some of the drivers who, well, finished in the top 5 and have transferred their way into tonight's NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series All-Star Race. I think Jacob Seelman has caught up with the first one of those, and that would be the guy that crossed the line first, Matt Busa. Jacob?
Yeah, down here in Victory Lane, Matt Busa, certainly you didn't start off the stint strong, but you certainly ended it the way you wanted to, pulled away over the final 5 or 10 laps and take the victory. You're in the All-Star race here in just about an hour. What was it like there scrambling for 40 laps, and talk about your road to Victory Lane?
Yeah, that was a really crazy race there with me and Duvall, Hansen, Laughlin. I think at one point we were 3 wide through the middle of the grass. But yeah, early on I kind of just let Duvall go because based on testing from the NPAS series, I knew that if you saved your tires, he would be really good on the long run. So I just let him go. Hansen got into me, just let him go and just rode in third and focused on saving my tires. And then by the time they started battling, I think Hansen slipped a little and I got second, and then Duvall's tires were already just gone, so I was able to sneak by him and pull away.
Is this just a precursor of what we're going to see later tonight? I know the All-Star race itself is a night race, but is it going to be just this crazy?
Oh yeah, I think so for sure. But if the weather happens to be about the same at all, then it was so loose in turn 3 and 4, and even in turn 1 and 2, sometimes it would be crazy loose, but at the same time it would be really tight on the tree, so it's a really good set to have an amazing race with.
Well, I know you'll be looking forward to it here in just a little bit, Matt. Congratulations. You win the Showdown and transfer into the All-Star race. We'll see you back on track here in just a little while. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks for broadcasting.
And I'm pretty sure down here, Tony Stevens has caught up with Mitchell Hunt, who came home second, Tony, and it was just about as an exciting ride for Mitchell as it was for Matt, who got to Victory Lane.
I think it was. Mitchell had a couple of near misses on the racetrack, and Mitchell, how fun or how excruciating or whatever adjective you'd like to use is it trying to race these cars with a fixed setup here at Charlotte in a race that it's pretty much go or go home?
Well, it's definitely tough. Both corners, the car drive's completely different, especially kind of depending on where you are in traffic. If you're up front, you're just holding on. But it was a lot of fun battling up there, I think, for the top 6 of us, I think it was. I think right when everyone kind of get down to the wire, everyone started making moves. It started to get real kind of nerve-wracking, kind of trying to stay out of other people's stuff, whether or not they're going to get loose or kind of hold you up. So you kind of wanted to... I was just trying to stay back and try not to get caught up in anything. It kind of worked for me.
Certainly did. obviously I'm sure you learned some things. Maybe not all of them you wouldn't tell us, but what are some things that you can take away from this race to maybe put in your deck of cards to use a little bit later?
Just don't wreck, and you're good.
Yeah, pretty short and sweet, I guess. Mitchell Hunt, we'll let him go. He's going to end up in the second spot tonight, transferring in to the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series All-Star Race. Jacob Seelman has worked his way further down pit road and looks like the early leader of the race, and another guy that transferred his way in is standing by with him.
Yeah, and I know this has got to be a little bit of redemption for our third-place finisher in tonight's showdown, Dylan Duvall. Dylan, we've watched you struggle through the early part of the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series season. Saw you had to sit out a little bit at the start of the year, but you come back to the All-Star race with a little bit of vengeance, lead a lot of laps early. What was the difference to keep you from taking the win there late, and is it satisfaction knowing that you're in the big show tonight?
Yeah, all I was looking for going in was to actually transfer into the main event. Basically, the main difference was with the way the arrow is on these cars now. When you're leading, you're about 3 times looser than you are when you're 9 people. And by the time lap 30 came around, my right rear was just gone at that point. My strategy was I was just going to keep moving up to the outside every time someone got a run and try to hold them down there, and because it's hard to complete the pass on the inside. And that was my strategy, but Boos's tires were just that much better, and he got around me, unfortunately. But yeah, it's definitely nice to move into the race, and that was just my main goal coming in.
What do you take away from this showdown? I know, obviously, the All-Star race itself, a little bit different format, going to have cautions to deal with tonight, but what do you take away from the showdown that you can use for the big show here in about an hour?
I mean, I don't think there's much at all you can take from it. When we swap over to the actual All-Star race, it's gonna be at night, and the car just drives so much different at night around this place with the fixed setup. Basically, anyone who had to run the day race had no grip, and now when we swap over to night, it's gonna be gripped up and just massive grip, and it's completely different. There's really nothing you can take. Like, I can't even use what I did in the showdown by going to the outside, because that's not going to be as effective where we're not as loose now. So, I mean, I don't actually think there's anything you can take from the showdown to the All-Star race. It should be interesting.
And we know he'll have a little bit of ways to come from the back, but Dylan, you're in the big show. We'll see you back on track here in about an hour. And moving a little further down pit road, Tony Stevens, I believe you've caught up with our 4th-place finisher, Tyler Laughlin.
Have, in fact, and Teeloff, you kind of like, well, everybody else around you, had a few moments there tonight. How much fun was that?
That was probably one of the most fun races I've ever been a part of on iRacing. The changing weather really threw us a loop a couple times whenever we'd go through 3 and 4 and the wind would change directions and just step the car out. But, I mean, the battle for the whole, like, all top 5 cars, that was some of the most fun racing I've ever had. And, I mean, everyone kept it clean, and we had no wrecks up front. I know there was a little trouble back on the restart at the start of the race, but everyone up front raced really clean, and that was a lot of fun.
You're in the show. Now you don't have the stress of getting into the show to worry about. What do you look for? What do you worry about? What do you focus on as a means to try to take home a trophy later tonight?
No doubt, starting position is going to mean a lot. Whenever I qualified for the showdown, I knew starting position was going to be the biggest factor because of tire spin, and it's really hard to pass on the inside here with the tire model like it is now. It really can hold the outside good at Charlotte. So I'm pretty sure track position is going to be really key for the All-Star race tonight, and starting up front will be the benefiting factor if you want to win and where you finish. So I'm going to see what I can do. I was just trying to get into the show. I wasn't pushing for a win tonight. I just wanted to try to get some breathing room and stay inside the top 5 all race, but I'll be going for it 9 o'clock.
Well, we certainly look forward to seeing you then. Go ahead, get that car ready, spend whatever extra time you need, or that matter, take a breather, because that's certainly what we're going to do. But before we do that, Jacob Seelman, 40 laps went by way too quick here, but man, it's got me pumped up for the All-Star race coming up a little bit later. Couple of different segments in that race, different lengths, and pit stops included. Different weather, the sun will set. I have a feeling as always, it's going to be one for the record books.
Can we ask for anything better? This is going to be knockdown, drag-out war here, I think, when we get down to it, Tony. Oh, boy. And, you got to figure we're going to see the big guns in this show now. We got Mike Conti, Ray Alfala, all of the heavy hitters, Tyler Hudson, Nick. It's going to be a show. I don't know what to expect yet. We saw 40 laps of absolute insanity in the showdown. This all-star race is going to be as wild, or maybe even more so than it was last year when Tom Lewandowski took the victory.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. 25 laps, a caution, 25 more, another yellow, and a 10-lap dash to settle it. That's all it's going to come down to, and you got to take 4 tires before you start it. Oh boy, that middle segment going to be entertaining. And as you said, all previous winners from the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series, well, they are eligible. PJ Sturgis, Chris Overland winning the fan vote. They too have locked themselves into the field, as have the top 5 from tonight's NPAS Showdown. We're going to take a rather long break here on Live Sim Racing TV. It's sign off here from the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series All-Star Showdown. Join us in just about an hour, approximately 9:15 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll be back with practice and qualifying, and ultimately the 60 laps that make up the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze All-Star Race. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back in about an hour.